Uh, it is good afternoon, Rachael Johns. Thanks for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Thank you for having me back, Joanna.
I know you're coming back to Yellow Shelf. I'm so grateful because you're the queen of contemporary romance here in Australia, and I have a sneaky copy of your new book, The Bad Bridesmaids. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a very fun book. Hopefully, people will love it.
And look, it's available right now on pre-order, but it is going to be out on the 28th of January. So I was super excited you said yes to come back and share about the new book. Rachel, tell us about the book. Tell us what we need to know about The Bad Bridesmaid.
Well, although it's a linked book to my last book, one of my last books, the Other Bridget, you don't need to have read the Other Bridget, so that's probably the first thing you need to know. But it's about a woman called Fred, who is very much anti kind of romance and love and marriage and all that mushy stuff, as she would say. And it's mostly because her mum has been married 5 times, and she's horrified by this. So she is her mum's sworn off love, and the book kind of opens when the mum suddenly announces she's getting married for the 6th time, and Fred is furious.
Yeah.
But she's convinced to go along to the wedding, which takes place on Norfolk Island, as the bridesmaid that she very much doesn't want to do. Hence the little devil ears that I'm wearing and the devil ears on her bridesmaid outfit out on the cover. And there she meets the groom's son Leo, who is, around her age, this hot musician slash teacher guy, and they discover that he also doesn't want the wedding to go ahead. This is more because his mum only died 6 months ago, and he thinks his dad is sort of rushing into this and he'll regret it. And so they both decide, well, if we both don't want the wedding to go ahead, let's make sure it doesn't go ahead. So that starts Operation Breakup and a whole week of fun and um, you know, tricks and things
Yes.
like that for they get them together to try and stop the wedding. Of course, in the course of that week, they, get quite close. There's a lot of chemistry and some other things happen.
Awesome. Well, we're not going to give too much away, but what I did want to share, Rachel, like all your books, I feel like we all know a bad bridesmaid, or we know that scenario of multiple marriages, going to weddings. Your stories are so relatable, and I felt like I had this emotional connection, which is what you do so well with your characters.
Thank
I was
you.
really invested in like the journey of the characters. Tell us about what inspired you to write this one on the back of The Other Bridget, because I know Yellow Shelf spoke to you last year about The Other Bridget, and that was incredibly successful. So what was the carry on with this one? What do we need to know?
Yeah, I never planned on it. I'm not a big planner in life or my writing. But when I was editing, so I just made Fred this sort of, well, to me, kind of cool character that was opposite to Bridget, who's in, very romantic at heart and
Yeah.
stuff. And then I was editing the other Bridget, and my publisher said, "Look, I get what you're trying to do with Fred, but she comes across almost as a little bit too prickly sometimes. We kind of don't, we don't want that because we don't want readers to think why the hell is Bridget friends with her."
Yeah.
And so I had to come up with a couple of ways just to soften her back a little bit.
Sure.
And one of the things I wrote in Bridget was Bridget had only seen Fred cry twice. Once when her cat died, and the other when her mum announced she was getting married for the 5th time. And suddenly I thought, that's probably why she is the way she is. Like, you would be very anti-marriage
Yes.
and commitment if you'd
Yeah.
seen that many broken relationships as you were growing up, kind of thing. And so suddenly then I was like, oh, in fiction we kind of think, well, what's the worst thing you can do to your character, or what's their worst nightmare? And I thought, well,
Yeah.
Fred's worst nightmare is, one, falling in love, and B, for her mum to announce she's getting married again. So I
Again.
thought, well, that could be fun. And then I think around the same time, like, every book is kind of, I think it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle,
Hmm.
or a garden where you have like different seeds and they all come together to make it look, pretty
Yeah.
flowers. And so I also like thought about the time it must have dropped into my head when I was, somehow it just linked. I was thinking about The Parent Trap, the original
Ah,
movie,
yes.
with Hayley Mills in it, which I watched so many times when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. And, for anyone who doesn't know that, it's basically identical twins who parted and don't know about the other one. They meet on summer camp and realize that, what's
Yeah.
happened, and then they try and A, get their parents back together,
Yeah.
but B, there's a little bit of a hiccup because their dad is engaged to this young woman, and so they have to try and get her off the picture
Yeah.
or out of the picture. And so I thought, oh, it would be fun to kind of do a grown-ups version of
Mm.
the Parent Trap.
Yeah.
And, instead of them trying to get their parents together, they're trying to keep their parents apart. And that's kind of where it all started.
Oh, fabulous. And Rachel, tell us if we're interested in the book, if we're curious, if anyone happens to not know who you are, who's watching, I'll put it in the show notes. But how do we connect with you? You have this beautiful community, you have a podcast, you write books. Tell us, how do we connect with you?
Yeah, I do everything except housework. No.
Clever.
Yeah. You can connect with me. Basically, most of my if you just look up, I'm on Instagram and Facebook mostly. I've got if you look up Rachael Johns author, I think, or Rachael Johns is an author on Instagram.
Yep.
I'm not really on TikTok. I kind of have a TikTok there, but I'm kind of
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not really doing anything with that. I do have, as you said, an online community called the
Yeah.
Rachael Johns Book Club, and that is a really great community if you're a book lover and you'd like to discuss books with other readers and writers to get in there. And then yeah, I've just started a new podcast. I've got a couple of podcasts actually. One's called Dear Rach and Soph, which is
Yeah.
writer orientated probably than readers, but we do discuss a lot of things and questions from readers. And the other podcast is called Reading Between Deadlines, which I do with a writer friend of mine. And we are discussing a hyped up book each month, kind of, and unpacking whether we like it or not, whether we think it
Yeah.
deserves its bestseller status and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, doing lots of things. I think that's about it for now.
Oh,
If anyone,
fabulous.
I don't know when this will go live, but if anyone wants to come and see me, I will be doing a smallish tour for the Bad Bridesmaid, starting the day kind of after it comes out. So you can find
Yeah.
all the details about that on my website, which is just rachaeljohns.com.
Yeah, no worries, Rachel. I'll put a link in to make it really easy. Um, God, I'm going to be cheeky. Is there more books to come, or what's the?
Yes, there's always more books to come because I can't do anything else, and I have too
Okay.
many voices in my head.
Yeah,
I'm currently writing a book which will hopefully come out at the end of the year called The
sure.
Lucky Sisters, and that's sort of more in my contemporary general fiction realm, and it's about twin sisters actually. They weren't
Ah,
switched at birth, like or lost separated at birth, like the
yeah,
ones, but they were adopted, and one of them's always wanted to find out their adopted parents or their birth
yeah,
parents, the other one hasn't. And just before their 50th birthday, the last adopted parent finally dies, and one of them decides, well, now I'm going to do it, whether you wanted to or
yeah,
not. And they uncover something quite shocking that changes the direction of both their lives. So I'm having a lot of fun writing that. There's a lot of things
oh.
there about like I've got near-death experiences, whether or not I believe in afterlife. It's like a fun book about death, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I recommend everyone dive into the Bad Bridesmaid first of all and enjoy that journey of launch and craziness
Thank
that
you.
comes. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. And
Absolutely
I'd
my
love to have you
pleasure.
back for the next one and the next one and the next one.
Would
So,
love that. I love speaking to you and your wonderful platform.
oh, cheers. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.